What about body language? Because I'm thinking about people that I know that are particularly low in self-esteem and they struggle with eye contact, but then also sometimes it's almost like they make themselves smaller in their body language and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, like, I guess what I'm thinking here is, can I trick myself? Can I trick myself and other people into thinking I'm confident if I'm not? Because there's all this stuff about like the Superman posture where you can kind of make yourself bigger and look in people's eyes. But when I reflect on my early years when I was least confident, for some reason, I couldn't get anyone I was pursuing. So I remember there was these 5 girls that I, over the course of about, since I was from 14 to I'd say 23, that I was really into. All 5 of them weren't interested in me. That we'd get a little bit far down the line. So there was like a little bit of sort of initial interest, but then I would always lose them. And I never knew why. But then it changed at about 24. And it doesn't correlate to like money or success necessarily. It correlates to my opinion of myself. And it was almost like magic. When I look back and I thought, fucking hell, like I got rejected over and over and over again. And when I got to the point that I actually believed that I was good enough, even though I read all the books, I read up all the pickup artistry books, I read The Game, I read all of these books that had the tips, tactics, and tricks to fake it. But it wasn't until I genuinely believed that I was high value that I had real success with the opposite sex. And so it left me with this feeling that you can read all the tips, the tricks, the eye contact, the body language, but maybe none of it works because there's 1,000 other non-verbal micro expressions that are communicating you're low value, you don't believe in yourself, you're not worthy, that overpower that we can't really control. And the reason it changed at 24, 25, 26, 27 is because I genuinely felt like I was good enough for them. Like, so, this is why I reflect on this idea of like, I know people will click podcasts like this because they want the tips, the tricks. They want to get from A to Z in 3 seconds.
No.
They want to get from low confident, low self-esteem, all that, to at the altar with a king. And they want to do it. They want to know how to do it in the space of this conversation so that they can end this conversation and walk down the aisle tomorrow with their Prince Charming. That's what people want. They want to solve complex things with short, simple solutions.
Doesn't exist.
I know this because I know that if I title this, if you title a podcast, 6-pack abs in 7 minutes, people are going to go, blah, blah, blah. But if you titled it 6-pack abs in 3 years of work and diet restriction, fucking no one's going to click. And it's the same thing for Here in Life. And I'm often wondering, like, how does someone change the core of themselves, whether it's as a leader, a manager, in a relationship, that very core of you? Because in my life, it was actually just this like long, grueling process of building myself. It was at the retiring from caring so much about actually getting any of these people and just building up this real internal fortress. And then everything else took care, the body language, the eye contact, the way I walk into a room, it all took care of itself. And, but it doesn't sell books that. Like, no one's going to buy that book.
You know what, though? It is all the little things we do that help us get there. There's no magic thing. That's why you're like, it took me time. And what it was all the little things along the lines that came. There's no magic thing. People sometimes come to me and they're like, what's the secret? And I tell them, there's no secret. The change that you want in your life, it's all the little things that you do. It's like, think of it like compound interest, right? I do this, and then I add this layer, and then this layer, and then this layer, and then this layer. It's like the sheets of paper. You put 1 sheet, it's light. 2 sheets are light. 3 sheets. But you put 1,000 sheets. Now you've got weight. That's how we are. We're layers, and we have to add to those layers. There's no quick thing. When you know you're going to get there? When you're sovereign. When you feel like, I don't need anybody. It's wonderful to have human beings around me, and I think connection is wonderful. But if your goal is, I need someone to complete me, you're done. And I think also, it's so wild because I'm thinking about my youth as you're talking about yours. When I became sovereign, like where I'm like, I'm good enough. I'm good as I am.
You become a magnet.
I became a magnet. People are like, well, I wanted that. Yeah. I want to be around that. I want to be around her. Everywhere. People are like, how do you? It's like, because I believe in me. But it took time to believe in me.
And when you became sovereign.
Yes, everyone's just like.
But how did your behavior change? Those micro behaviors?
I stopped chasing things and chasing people.
Yeah.
I stopped looking for approval. I stopped trying to people please, right? And I just, I trusted myself. I also stopped taking inventory from everybody, asking everybody their opinion. And I also, I dealt with a lot of rejection, a lot of rejection, a lot of people not agreeing with me. I gossip growing up. I took a lot of heavy hits, and those things made me resilient. Those things taught me to not, you know, to stay my course. And I've shared this before, but when I became an agent, or I put in front of NYPD, the community of friends and people I had around me, they thought it was ridiculous. They thought it was silly. I remember when I started dating, after I became an agent, there was one guy, a good friend of mine's brother. She was trying to hook me up with him. This is before my husband. My husband knows everything. And so I'm like, all right, he was a nice Greek guy. I'm Greek. I'm keeping it in the community because you're supposed to. So I'm talking to him and I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking I went through so much to become a special agent with the U.S. Secret Service. And you know what he said to me? He's like, so when you get married, are you going to quit that job and, ditch this? I mean, how long are you going to do this? He spoke about it like it was nothing, like it was trivial. And I heard that and I was just like, wait, what? It's like, dude, you couldn't get into the Secret Service if with your, there's no, with all your might. And when he was said that to me, and his job, he owned a diner and he owned a diner, food. His success was wealth and money. And some cultures, including mine and the community I was in, they measured success with money. What I was doing was not successful. But I had the ability to be sovereign enough to not listen. I was just no, that's not my belief system, my moral compass. And I stopped caring. Then I dated another guy who knew I was in the Secret Service. And I really liked this guy. It was this Italian kid. And I'm thinking he's going to be so proud of me. I got in and we went on this date and he had just broken up with someone. Steven, he was so uncomfortable around me.
Why?
Because I was an agent. I was like a freak show. It was weird. I think today's a little different, maybe at that time. And
do you think men struggle with strong women?
I think certain men do. I think men who are not confident in themselves, if you're steady, you don't care what somebody else is. You're cheering for them. I ended up dating an agent and marrying him. So because my husband's so steady and sovereign in himself, I could do whatever. And he'd be like, you go.
Have you had to build up your, how would I describe it? Mental fortitude, ability to be direct, to look someone in the eye, to stand up straight. Have you had to build that up over time? Because there'll be a lot of people who look at you and see strength and they see confidence and they see conviction and they'll wonder, maybe she was just born like that, or maybe there's something she did along the way that grew that.
It's a lot of mistakes and a lot of discipline. And it's also the people you surround yourself with will set that example, that tone for you. If everybody around me is a mess, or everybody around me, when there's a stressful situation, they fall apart and they're chaotic, I'm going to be that. Even to this day, Steven, I sit and I'm very aware of who I have conversations with, whose energy I absorb, whose problems I solve. I have somebody I care about very deeply. They're in a situation with someone, a relationship with someone who is volatile, chaotic. They've come to me so many times. I said, you need to let go of this person. Oh, I will. They don't. But what happens is they keep coming to me. I'm having this problem. And I put them on point. I'm like, I told you what to do. Now you have to sort that out, because now what's happening is your stuff is coming into me and I can't have that because I have to keep this steady. So sometimes, even with pain in my heart, I'll have to kind of move that person a little bit to the outer part of the circle. It does not mean I don't care or love them, but it means your chaos has to stay there because it's going to bleed into my life. You're unsteady, I'm unsteady. But everybody around me, it's I don't want to say it's like a calculus problem, but it's kind of simple math, man. Look at who's around you. You are them. They are you. And if you don't like what's going on with you, pause and be like, who am I exposed to the most? Sometimes the people we love, they can be very difficult personalities. But even with them, you could say, I can manage this. I don't want to cut this person out. But what do? I just move them to the edge of the circle a little bit more. And you have to make sure your core circle is strong. And that's something you have to constantly reassess, because sometimes in our lives, this person is good here, and then maybe 2-3 years later, they're not good anymore. But what we're tied to is that person who we knew back then. Well, they're not the same person now. If you have a shit show around you, it's you, because you're allowing it to exist. So think about quietly, how can I create these changes and quietly make these changes, quietly make these boundaries, because these are boundaries internal for you.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.